Hello, this is Teresa Phelps Martin bringing you the energetic signature so you can be real, you can be true, and you can be so fully you. So, the energetic signature is Taurus season. Taurus season is this idea of fixed earth. It means it's the middle of spring in the northern hemisphere and the middle of fall in the southern hemisphere. What it really means is that we're in this place of stabilizing and sustaining that energy of life, right? And that energy of life in the northern hemisphere is about rebirth and about abundance. And the southern hemisphere this time of year would be about the dissolution, right? As the dissolution of the crops, right? Where we're really harvesting the energy of abundance, but we're also putting it to rest. Whereas Taurus season is the abundance is coming alive, right? So if we went to fall season, we see that abundance that we have all shared from. And this time of year, spring, everything is green, there's pollen, and we feel that energy of things being reborn, right? And that we can really see with our own two eyes. We can physicalize it, we can smell it, we can taste it, we can hear it, right? We can see it and feel it. So the senses are part of Taurus energy, this earth energy. It's part of our embodiment. If you think about the fact that, let's say we're all energy, and you think about the idea of we're coming to crystallize, we're coming to be in being, to be, right? To be present, to relate with ourselves and our own gifts. Like we were born, each and every one of us, not an easy feat, by the way. It's not the easiest thing to just pop out a baby. Some people pop out a lot of babies, but that's another conversation, right? For us, you and I here, we are people. We are skin and bones. We are cellular. We are living on a planet Earth. So when you come to that place, how are you going to sustain yourself? And this energetic theme to me this month really is about the ritual of being well, right? How are you caring for your well-being? And I'm going to unpack this for you. I'm going to go to the cosmos for this inspiration and for this guidance because we see it, we live according to seasons, at least I do. We eat seasonally, at least I choose to. Now we live in modern day times where avocados are available year round. You can have lemonade anytime you want it. It's sometimes funny to think that some cultures never had lemonade because lemons weren't available. And if you think about it now, around the world, Coke, Pepsi, they're all available because they're man-made. I'm not a soda drinker. I'm not knocking anybody who is, but I'm not a soda drinker. They're not from the earth, but they're of earthly beings. Okay, so, and it's everywhere. So there was a time in our lives where we couldn't access these things. So on some level, we're living in some of the most abundance of times, right? We can connect with each other anytime we want to. We can relate with each other any way we want to. So we have a plethora of abundance available to us, but we have evolved as beings in a way where we can't see it. That we're in denial of how much our lives have been enriched to become easier. And so that's it, right? But that's Taurus season. Now, I want you to know that this energetic signature starts with a blast. An eclipse would be the technical term, right? So in that energy, we have new moon in Aries at 29 degrees, where the moon within hours then transits into Taurus. And within hours, the sun enters Taurus. So Taurus season enters with this moment where the moon stands between the sun and the earth. Now, Traditionally, the moon has represented the feminine and the sun has represented the masculine. There's a great and beautiful conversation right now that actually demonstrates that the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine, because the moon is related to hunting and fishing and gathering. And traditionally, it was the masculine energy of the team of people that left the home because the feminine was ever present to that light. And at the same time, women were also property. Women were property for up until modern day times. They still are treated as property, but we're not going there right now, okay? So we want to recognize that all things are both, right? So this non-binary idea that the younger generation is mandating that we recognize, thank you all, is actually something that's always been there, okay? We just project onto it what we want it to be. So the masculine and the feminine are ever present. And so this moment of the moon standing in the way of the sun and blocking, it's not in our path, which is also a blessing, by the way. It's not always beneficial to be in the path of the eclipse. So it is going to be, those of us who live in Louisville, pretty much from the southwest corner of the US to the northwest east, from southwest to northeast, there is a trajectory. So the eclipse will come really close to us because it passes over Indianapolis in like a year and a half, I believe. So just something to note. There are eclipse chasers. That's great. But just remember that it's a shocking time for our planet. There's a dramatic shift of energy. And so if we think of the moon being the masculine, the sun being feminine, we're really radically, and the moon is stuck between the earth and the sun, then we're radically shifting the narrative. We're radically shifting the way we embody ourselves. Now, this eclipse is potent. It is strong. It's a game changer, but all eclipses are. You can go back to, I think it was April of, oh shoot, I should have made note of that date. April 2004. Okay, and then before that was in the 80s, and before that it was April of 1966. These are the patterns of the eclipses, and you can look at what is the patterning of that time for you. In 2004, I was becoming a full-time yoga teacher, and that is now closed. My physical being can't tolerate yoga. I can't tolerate a lot of physical stuff right now, but there's a closure, and that this eclipse is a big time in closure of wrapping it up, like releasing what needs to be released so you can make space for that new beginning. It's why I have a microphone today, is because our neighbors are cutting down a tree that needs to go, and it's going to open up a big space. We have a ton of trees in our backyard, so it's okay. A big space that once wasn't visible. There was an obstacle in the way. So letting go, releasing. The eclipse is at 29 degrees. So when the sun and moon leave 29 degrees and they go to 0 degrees, Taurus, then it's a bridge from this dynamic energy into this grounded energy. Okay, so we want to look at this a bridge or a threshold. When a woman is incredibly pregnant, Deborah Silverman taught me this, that's 29 degrees. When she goes into labor, that's kind of like what this eclipse is going into labor and then births the baby. When a woman, a female, births a child, whether it's C-section or vaginal, doesn't matter. It's probably why there's so many more people on this planet, is because we can have C-sections and so many women and children don't die during labor, although they still are. It's just so crazy to me that we have so many amenities that we are so, I know I'm going on a tangent, that we are so hungry for, right? That we get all caught up in, like all the preteens I work with are all up TikTok's butt. It's like, I'm sorry, but they can't, like, they don't know how to function without TikTok and YouTube, right? And so we get all caught up in that. But there's still so much that's being left behind that is being left out. Actually, I should say that is being left out. So this Aries energy is about our individuality. I like to say it's our divine spark. Our divine spark, every single spark on this planet. Plants, like if you're in Louisville, how much pollen is everywhere? It's a beautiful spring, but it's like pollen central. It's like the Mother Nature had to create an abundance of her magic to sustain her life, right? And that's it. This eclipse is creating an abundance of your own magic so you can sustain your gifts to carry forward. So this is why the ritual of being well is the theme for this month. Because how are you taking care of your well-being? If you are not well, the people around you are not well. Now, wellness is not perfection. Wellness is addressing that you have to ask for help, that you're not alone, that you're in relationship. So if we're at this potent fullness of this energy, we also want to look to the opposing energy, which is Libra. Libra is relationships, it's beauty, it's the peace, it's justice. People use the word balance. If you've tuned into me at all, you know that balance, for whatever reason, is a trigger for me. I think it's because I can stand on one foot for quite some time, but I still am agitated. Think about it. Those of you who still have a yoga practice, I honor you and I'm grateful for you. The next time you stand on one foot, tell me if it's peaceful. Tell me if you're that balanced, if you really feel peace. Now, to me, it's more about coherence and congruence, where you feel the connection of your outer world resonating with your inner world. And of course, we live on this planet with billions of people. We're not all going to get along. But can you consider the well-being of others? Can you open yourself up? Pollen's making my nose run. Can you open yourself up to that goodness of one another? Can you open yourself up to the beauty of being in relationship, to that ability to be present and to engage, and the richness and the sensuality by being in the cells of your own being? Be in the cells of your being, right? This is where it means to be true. That is so much the earth energy. And so the potency of the eclipse is going to unfold for many, many months. All right. Part of that reason is Jupiter is going to come by this point and trigger it and amplify it before it moves into Taurus. And I jumped to Jupiter because it's the planet that's still in Aries. And Jupiter moves into Taurus on May 17th. Okay, really May 16th. And it moves into this energy. So it'll be at 29 degrees the morning of the 16th. So you can just kind of circle that day and take note. What's getting amplified? And that's going to help you understand what the theme of this eclipse is. Because we're igniting a story. We don't know the story yet. Okay, so this rich baby, if you've been somebody who's given birth, you know how radically your life changes once that baby's on the outside of you. Right? Now, if you are still a baby and that experience a baby in the sense of you've never birthed, you've birthed something. I know you have a project, a business, a relationship. Like, you understand the newness of things. So you've also understand a new moon, a new month, a new day. Birth is happening all the time, but you know how much your life radically changes, right? So when we're in that potency, the sun and the moon goes first, moves into Taurus. Mercury is in Taurus. Mercury is stationing to go retrograde. So Mercury has stalled out. Communication is slowing down. Mercury is going to be a retrograde. So this is part of the storyline of this eclipse. And Mercury in Taurus, in my opinion, is really that slower learning, like the writing down. Like for me, I learn because I have to make it visual. I need to make it a sensual, right? We see the colors. I draw things out, right? We see the sketches, because that's how I learn, right? My daughter's a very much artist herself, but her Mercury is in Scorpio. So Mercury in Taurus is a slowing down of our ability to comprehend. So this is also part of the ritual of being well. You've got to pull back, and how are you embodying? And how are you communicating with your being, your body, your relationship with life, your relationship in this existence? So Mercury going retrograde, it'll retrograde back. I'm getting detailed today because I have the ephemeris in front of me for the first time ever. It'll retrograde 10 degrees. So it'll go back to 5 degrees Mercury. Sorry, Mercury will go back 5 degrees to 5 degrees Taurus. And then it moves out of its shadow. And that happens, it goes direct on May 15th. And then it'll move out of its shadow at the end of May. That's interesting. And so Mercury was spending a long time in Taurus, and it's asking us to reevaluate the way we communicate and connect and exchange ideas and commerce in this embodiment. How are you using your talents? How are you creating the commodity of you? This is part of the storyline of not just Mercury retrograde, but of this eclipse. This eclipse energy plays out for 20 years. They go in 20-year cycles, okay? So with that 19 to 20-year cycles. So with that, what's being played out, and how's that storyline? How are you changing the narrative? When the eclipse, when the sun and the moon move into Taurus, we have a square with Pluto. Pluto in Aquarius is one of the biggest astrological deals to all of us astrological geeks and nerds and dorks, because we've just never, it's like a big deal. It's like, woo, it's the first time. Nobody on this planet has ever lived with Pluto in Aquarius, so it's brand new. And Pluto in Aquarius at this point of evolution has never happened before, right? So the arrangement of the sky is really significant because it's unique. Now we could go back to storylines of Pluto being in Aquarius, but that's not how I utilize my time. I utilize my time in recognizing that it's new. So we have a chance to have a say-so in this. So Pluto is this energy of transformation, of power, of strength, but it's very distant. It's where your strength comes from. Once you go inward and you go into the dark hallways of your soul, you go into the deeper layers of your emotional essence. It's the energy you've inherited, and how are you going to change it? How are you going to grow beyond this? Aquarius is fixed air. So it's about our hopes and dreams. It's about the collective. So how are we in relationship? All of us beings here on planet Earth. Can we consider the individual, but how are we collaborating for the collective? Right? And so when it's squared, we have a challenge. So we're being pushed to change, just FYI. That's the big underscore here. That nobody wants to change, but we have, as people living in 2023, have to be willing to make changes. For some reason, what keeps coming back to me of all this change, and I was super fascinated about it when I was a child, like learning this stuff, is the Industrial Revolution, right? We're part of the technological revolution. The Industrial Revolution change life radically, just like technology is changing life radically. So when we look at this, what change, the letting go, the releasing, makes room for new. So how are you releasing the patterns that are keeping you so locked in to you do you know, and being annoyed with the other ways other people do you? And this goes from everything to people who don't show up to people who do show up, right? I don't want to project, but to show up means you're okay with getting uncomfortable. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to make everybody uncomfortable. And so this eclipse that's happening, that's igniting Taurus season, where Uranus has been in Taurus, Uranus will continue to stay in Taurus. Good news, right? Like, we're used to Uranus being in Taurus right now, right? We're used to the constant turmoil of the ground in which we stand on, right? That even being good isn't good enough. The constant eruptions and plot twists, but are we also tapping in our embodied self to our intuitive gifts? Are we welcoming in the higher mind and perception and meditating and these mindfulness practices that in the clinical world, there's radical amounts of evidence of how much it works. So are we open to these wisdom traditions that allow us to evolve, allow us to bring in a level of equanimity within the cells of our being? It's hard, you guys. It's super hard, but it's worth it. And we want to make sure we're recognizing the tiny little hits of change along the way, right? Because we don't get to see the collective of it until well later. Like, I'm working with preteens, you know, I get to interject at a time when it's like really confusing, right? Like middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, whew, it is complicated, it's drama. You don't know who's your friend, who's not your friend. It's because there's so much hormonal energy, right? And those hormones are part of that soul energy. They're major part of our lives. They create life. They destroy life too. So, and you know, one of my reflections is like, wow, man, if only I had had help like this, middle school would have been so different. And now that narrative has changed of like, oh my gosh, even though middle school was one of the hardest and most awkward times of my life, look at how far I've come. So you really want to look at what energy are you going to bring? How are you going to allow that to shine? And how are you going to give room for other people to shine as well? Now, shine is different than being righteous, right? This is about embracing our gifts, not getting all tangled up in the beliefs of our mind, but coming to our essence, the bare minimum that we are humans having an experience on a planet, right? And I can even hear some of you saying, well, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. I 100% agree with that. You may or may not, right? So we want to recognize, like, whatever needs to be transformed is going to be forced. That's the fixed energy. So accepting change will make it easier. Tuning into your intuition will help. If you don't know how to do that, that's part of the work I do. Like, I've shifted it to be calling myself a counselor, a coach, and a consultant. The consulting is the cosmos, right? How do we consult the heavens above? How do we consult with the cosmos to understand our lives? But I still am going to be a counselor because I will counsel anybody who asks for that. And I will be a coach that's a guide that directs you and helps you remember what in your life matters and how you're moving towards that. Right? Those are the parts to me that we rely on. So, what is going to be transformed will be forced and it'll be revealed. You'll know. It won't be a mystery. You will know. Like, I know right now that I am being I mean, my body is mandating that I make change. And it's wild to think that it's mandating that I have to change this idea of being a yoga teacher. That one I keep doing therapy on. It's kind of interesting, right? But emotions are going to be big, especially when we like drop into the past. So here's the thing. Mars is in Cancer, okay? So let me like come back real quick. Let me give you like an roll down of the cosmos so you understand where I'm drawing into this concept, okay? So Taurus season begins with a big eclipse, okay? And we have that eclipse at 29 degrees Aries, and then boom, that eclipse energy is still with us when the sun and the moon enter Taurus, right? Because they're pretty much going within hours of each other. So they're carrying this energy with them. If you think about Ganesha, to help you cross the threshold is really, really important. Your guides, your divine entities that you call upon to support you and you lean into, that you want to invoke them as we cross this threshold. It's an energetic one, but it's still going to be a big one. And then Mercury goes retrograde, right? I shared that. Venus is in Gemini, and Venus will be in Gemini until May 7th, and then she moves into Cancer. Mars remains in Cancer almost all of Taurus season, but at the end of Taurus season, when the sun is at 29 degrees Taurus, the Mars will move into Leo, and it'll be there for a while. And in Taurus season, Jupiter enters Taurus. Saturn stays in Pisces. Uranus, so Saturn keeps moving forward in Pisces, but starts to, Saturn goes retrograde in June. Yep. Saturn will go retrograde in Pisces on June 18th. Sorry, that's my son's birthday. And that means Saturn will be on his moon, and we get to live that energy for an entire year. Okay, which is fine. We're getting there. Okay, and sorry for the distraction. And Neptune will stay in Pisces, and then the big one is that Pluto. So Pluto's new in Aquarius, right? I just spoke on that. The transformation, the power, and how it's transforming the collective, our visions for the future, and technology and intuition and all of this. A lot of astrologers are all caught up in artificial intelligence. It's probably my thing that like slow your roll. Saturn's in Pisces. Like, no, this is asking us to do the deep work. Sorry, I just called out so many astrologers right now. No, Saturn's in Pisces. Saturn is in Pisces as Pluto is at the 0 degree point in Aquarius. Saturn is downright stirring up all the junk, all the stuff that's been ignored, all the betrayal, all the hatred, all the ugly things of our life that we need to take responsibility for. So that's my, we don't know, because this is the first time in history as we know it. I think during the matriarchal times where the matriarch and patriarch worked together and there was harmony and they danced with the cosmic light and it was very sacred, that they tended to the emotional layers. I just had this beautiful, beautiful image come to me, and that doesn't usually happen when I'm doing these. So in that notion, yes, Pluto's in Aquarius. Pluto goes retrograde. What did I say? At the beginning of May, early in May. Yeah, May 2nd. All right, and then it's retrograde for a while. And then it goes back into Capricorn, June 12th. And then it's in Capricorn, and I'm not going further than that because I can get carried away. So the only way we can take care of the collective in the future is if we heal the past. And Mars is in Cancer, and it's stirring this up big time, big time, big time. Emotions are strong. Emotions are real. Now, granted, I see about 20 people a week. They all have emotional things they're dealing with. And some of them are good. You know why? Because they're doing the work. They're having conversations about it. They're pulling it up from their insides and putting it out there, not casually and around friends, because we perform around our family and friends, and it's wonderful and it's powerful and it's important, but we need a non-biased presence to hold space for us and to reflect back what our innermost layers are needing. They need to be seen with love. Right? Sorry, I just got really passionate about this. They need to be seen with love. And if we can see them, and if we can see people, when we're in a place and our pain is seen in the light, in the lens of our true power, of our wholeness, radical things happen. We shift, we change, we reimagine. We reimagine. So when Saturn goes into retrograde in June 18th, we're going to have this review of Saturn being in Pisces. The good news is that Mars will no longer be in Cancer. While Mars is in Cancer, sensitive, emotional, the inflammation of the emotions, the inflammation of the pain, the old wounds, then we're in a place of recognizing what's happening. Of course. Interesting. Mars is on my moon right now, and I'm dealing with a lot of inflammation through here, which are old wounds. So it just kind of makes sense. And you too can understand your chart in a way that you can integrate in. For me, people use tarot to help them process what's going on. I use the cosmos. I use astrology. Clearly, I'm bringing this entire 30-minute message to you based on the heavens above. Something I want to tie in real quick. So we know this eclipse, Taurus season, is about the ritual of being well. I really want you to unpack that for yourself. I'm not going to tell you. How are you showing up into your daily life and honoring your embodiment? What practices are you creating? What are you doing? Where are you in this journey? And what do you need to let go of? Emotions are driving us forward, especially when we get caught up in the past. Bring forward ritual to help with the emotional pull. Be creative. Keep your passion for life going. Come to terms in the way emotions and feelings drive us forward. We are emotionally driven. We are emotionally driven. Who here says, I'm going to wake up and I want to feel like shit all day? Excuse my language. No, we wake up. Today's going to be a good day. It's a good day for a good day. I'm going to put one foot in front of the other. That's Aries energy right there. And that drive and that courage to show up gets weakened for a lot of people. They lose all sense of motivation, right? So that when we lose motivation, guess what we do? We stop engaging. We are emotionally driven. So we have to accept that. The highly intentional moon, there are going to be emotional explosions. And we want to honor that there's so many different ways of viewing things beyond our own. I get a little heated up when people can't see it, the big clear picture, but I have to also remind myself, like, that's me. Excuse me. You're going to show up for what matters. And you're going to show up for what matters, like in the home. The home, our past, our inheritance, our need for safety are really heightened with this energetic signature this month. And this embodiment, honoring our talents, honoring our values. So notice I haven't spoken of Venus, except for when she jumps into Cancer. And I don't even know if I told you that or not, but Venus enters Cancer on, May 8th. I think I said June earlier, so I apologize about that. May 8th. Venus in this eclipse, she's just kind of chilling. She's unaspected, and she's just kind of watching it all, but doing her own thing. She is in this place of, what did I say? Venus is really social in her own way and standing strong. All right. Mars is going to really ask us to work towards safety so that then we can have some fun, right? This is that drive. Like, what is it you need to be safe? What needs to be resolved? What needs your attention, your care, your nourishment? These are the pains. These are the wounds that are tripping you up. We want to really honor our embodiment. We want to know how to lead with nourishment and lighten up. We want to be committed to ourselves and then begin to explore our network and caring for our well-being. So Venus standing on her own, she knows what she's here to do. She's already had her conversation with Pluto. She's like, oh my gosh, man, Pluto and I had this conversation. I've already talked to Saturn. I got it, y'all. You all catch up. Everybody else get your together and join me on this new pilgrimage. And we're in a new frontier. We know it. We're in a new reality. Hundreds of years from now, assuming if we don't kill our earth, children will be learning about the time of a great pandemic that changed the unfolding of the world. They'll learn about the technological revolution that changed the way the world operated. So we are creating a legacy right here, right now. So how are you going to show up for that? How are you going to bring that value into play? Taurus energy is ruled by Venus, right? And she's in Taurus. She's in Gemini right now, right? So she's socializing. She's networking. Can you socialize, be curious, network, and remain centered? So that is the signature for Taurus season. The moons, I did not do the moon. So I talked about the eclipse and then I didn't move on. So interestingly enough, we have the flip. We have the Aries full moon, because we have 2 moon in Aries. This Aries lunation, which is a big deal in of itself. And then the quarter moon will be in Cancer. Excuse me. On 4/27, April 27th. And then we have the sun will be in Taurus at 15 degrees. And when the moon hits 15 degrees in Scorpio on May 5th, we have a Scorpio Taurus lunar eclipse, which I will talk about. Another time. Y'all, there's so much that I could bring you that there's just not enough time in the world. Okay. Eclipse season is here. I'll just put it that way. So just big changes and this full moon in Scorpio. It's kind of personal for me. I think that's why I haven't looked at it. And just realizing I haven't looked at it. So my apologies. If you want me to unpack, if you're still with me and you want me to unpack the Scorpio eclipse, please ask. And then we have the last quarter moon on May 12th in Aquarius. That's the moon energy. But here, I'll give you a lowdown. Here, I can do this real quick because I have the firmary so I can look at this. All right. So on May 5th, the Scorpio eclipse at 15 degrees. The sun is in Taurus. The moon is in Scorpio. We're looking at our embodiment, all the changes we've made. These eclipses happen when they're close to the nodes of fate. So this is really asking us to release, like Beyonce's song, Release Yourself, is like what you should listen to, okay? It's like exact Taurus Scorpio opposition that we're in. Mercury will still be retrograde at 9 degrees. So Mercury retrograde is going to be in opposition to this eclipse, to the full moon. So that's kind of a big deal. So we're really relearning embodiment. Venus will be at 27 degrees Gemini. So she's not really a big player except for, her and Jupiter actually will be in a nice sextile. So it's really this amplification of the feminine and our values and how we are values driven. Mars is at 21 degrees. So Mars is going to be approaching a square with Jupiter, which that's another conversation another time. Saturn is at 5 degrees Pisces. So Saturn's in the storyline of this, like Saturn trining the moon, of really big emotions, the amplification of the melancholy, of addressing what sits beneath the surface. Uranus is at 18 degrees, which it's not been for a while. So we're going to feel that energy because the sun is at 15, Uranus is at 18. So Uranus is a player in this energy of big change. It's just like that groundbreaking change is real. And then Neptune's at 26 and Pluto's in retrograde at 0 degrees. So we have the midpoint of the Taurus Scorpio opposition happening this eclipse. So it's really asking us to look at this idea of what haven't you addressed? Like, I feel like the universe is saying, oh my gosh, you all wake up, please. What else do we have to do? Well, I guess we have to do what needs to be done. Can you sit with the discomfort? Can you take that pain and turn it into potential? I mean, that's the work I do, is help people recognize their pain and see the potential in it. I do it because I've lived it. And so I share not only the evidence-based wisdom of a clinician, I also share the intuitively sound guidance that has served me and has been served to me by some amazing beings. That's it. I got to stop there. This is a long energetic signature, but we have 2 eclipses, a Mercury retrograde, Pluto squaring it all, Pluto being in Aquarius for the first time, Pluto going retrograde, Jupiter. I didn't even talk about Jupiter going into Taurus, but just know that when Jupiter leaves Aries, it hits that point of the eclipse. What needs to go gets amplified, it gets louder with a slight, loving, gentle nudge. And then we drop into this place of how are you going to really expand our sense of embodiment. Pluto will later go retrograde in Taurus. Jupiter. Jupiter will spend a lot of time in Taurus, which is beautiful. If you were born near in 1976, then you're going to be having your Jupiter return. I'm sorry, I can't go. What's 76 minus 12? 64. If you were born in 64, you're going to be having your Jupiter return. Right? And if you were born, what's 76 plus 12? If you were born in 88, then you're going to be having your Jupiter return. If you were, God, I've got to go even beyond that. 12, what's 88 plus 12? 2000. Duh. We have this Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. If you were born in 2000, you are also going to have your Jupiter return. These are moments to reset the goodness. Jupiter goes in 12-year cycles. That's how I just did the math so quickly. And so if you were born in 2012, right? So here we are, 2003, Jupiter will be in Taurus until 2024. So just realizing all these details and layers of the return of goodness. How are you going to reset and regroup? And obviously the moon hits your moon every month, and that's a lunar return. So it's when planets return to the point in which they were the moment you were born. Your chart never changes. The sky is always moving forward. So thank you for tuning in. I feel like I just dropped a lot of technological insight as well as hopefully the technology of you and how you can really honor your inner landscape. I don't know how to, I need a microphone. I need this message to be amplified. It's essential in this life that you care for your inner self, that you tend to the inner realm of you, the parts that only you have access to. When we think about it, this is what we did when we did yoga. We got on the mat and we listened to our inner world. And then we want to allow it to resonate with the lives that we're living, right? That we sometimes are going to have to call on a great amount of strength, but we can step forward. We can step forward, reimagine this embodiment, because we're creating a ritual to be well, to be true, to be real, and be soulfully you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm not going to give you the whole blah, blah, blah. Subscribe, like, comment, because if you're tuning in and you're still with me. If you do want to schedule a reading, I will say I am booked until mid-June, but if it's something you want to put out there, I look forward to it. If you just want to set up coaching sessions or counseling sessions as self-pay, I'm available for that as well. And then I will be coming back to you mid-May for Gemini season, brought to you by yours truly, a Gemini herself, who will have another storyline because all of these eclipses trigger my chart immensely. And so it is. I appreciate you. You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are brilliant. You deserve to stand in your light. You deserve to bring your gifts forward and share them with the world. And you deserve to receive the gifts of so many others. We just want to be very, very clear in who and with whom and how we engage, and take any of this that serves you, leave the rest behind, and know that my intention is true. Notice my intention, or please receive that my intention is to harm no one and restore anyone who needs it. I will be back. You be you. Until next time, be well.